Welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name is Lucas, aka 3 Point Spanish King, and today we're here with our good friend from England, James Buttler.
Good day, mate. That's what you say, mate, over there.
Good day, yeah, on Australia Day. Good day. Happy Australia Day and Happy Republic Day in India if you are watching. Our boss Gaurav is from India, so Happy Republic Day to him.
You need to do Australia Day on a different day, though, not the day that the Aborigines were massacred. Needs to change that. The indigenous population of Australia needs to.
I'm not a huge fan of that per se. My motto is, as long as it's on this day, I'm going to continue celebrating. If they want to change it, that's fine. But as long as it's on this day, I'm still going to celebrate Australia Day. That's my personal opinion.
Stick it back a day, Lucas. Stick it back one day. Just makes a difference.
I wouldn't mind it to be on to the 24th of December. That's me personally. Australia Day, Christmas Day, Boxing Day. That would be sensational.
You have it in the week between Christmas and New Year because that's nothing happens then.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to do that. But as long as it's on whatever day, I'm going to celebrate it today, like I did celebrate today by doing absolutely nothing. Fantastic.
Anyway, enough of the politics. We'll get on to the politics of cricket.
Yeah, unfortunately, now people are going to say, why have you taken so long to actually do this fifth test and this review? Unfortunately, I had cricket commitments myself. As I've told James backstage, it was so impossible for me to be here the day after the test match or the weeks after, because I have cricket Monday to Thursday non-stop, then a game on Saturday and Sunday.
The problem is, Lucas, you see, I've had a week of therapy. I've wiped the ashes away from my English memory. That's never happened. It never happened.
No, so I celebrated it for the week, and then I've moved on to Pakistan. So I'm with you there, James. But we do apologise for not getting sooner. As I said, I've got cricket commitments. It's very hard for me not to do that. Today is Australia Day, so it was a public holiday, and James was free today. So we go into the fifth Test match, James, in Tasmania. Australia won that in 3 days. Australia won by 146 runs. Completely dominated after the second innings. The first innings, Australia made 303. I've got this on my computer. This comes in really handy because it was such long ago, guys. I've even forgot myself. So, James, I'm bringing back old runes here, James. I'm so sorry. So it was a green top pitch in Hobart, a traditional green top pitch. There wasn't going to be many runs scored. However, Australia did do very well in their first innings, which made a lot of difference, mainly due to one person, Michael Travis Head. The South Australian who made 100. Cameron Green also made, I think, a 60 or 70. I can't keep switching off because I want to pay attention to, I guess. But Australia did make 303, James, in that first innings, and got more than probably England would have wanted in that first innings.
I'm only, regardless of whatever you read out there, I'm only going to come back with the same thing, that it was the same old from England. They just can't bat. Yeah, they're struggling to put runs on the board. As Stuart Broad said, you can't bowl at totals of 147, and they failed to get 300s at any stage throughout the entire series. And if you do that, you're up against it, aren't you? You can never. I mean, people are criticising Joe Root's captaincy. Yeah, he's not the greatest tactician in the world. I don't think he would suggest he is. But if you're a captain that is basically hamstrung by the rest of your batting lineup, if you don't score runs, the batting folds. You are always going to be up against it in the field. You go back through Joe Root's captaincy on the series they've won. Nobody's questioned his captaincy because he's been able to put runs on the board and dominate the match. And if you're ahead in the game as a captain, you can lead things and you can be a little bit quirky at times and get away with it. If you are always being battered by your opposition, and let's face it, regardless of what I've said on our podcast throughout this series, it should have been 5-0. If it hadn't been for rain in the fourth Test match, it would have been 5-0. England were never in any of the Test matches to any length of time, and they've been absolutely hammered. Joe Root's always been playing catch-up in matches rather than actually leading the matches.
Well, amazingly, in this Hobart Test match, they did. I feel like this was England's best performance yet. They got absolutely battered in that fourth innings. They really put Australia on the back foot from the get-go. I think Australia in their first innings went to, I've got this as an actual fact here, they were 4 for 83 with Travis Head and Cameron Green, who's hasn't really quite performed yet to the way we would like him to be in Australia. But they really got Australia, especially Travis Head, 100. So what you just said, same old, same old. They could have bowled out Australia for 150 here, 200. But they let Travis Head and Cameron Green get completely a hold of them.
Yeah.
And so, as you said, same old, same.
Cam Green, I think, is a player, we mentioned him before, but I think he's a player that's got a big future for Australia. At the start of it, he was patently out of form with the bat, but he's obviously worked during the series, and towards the end of it, he was looking like a really good batsman. His bowling stats during the series were excellent. I think if they keep him fit and keep him firing and he improves, obviously the rest of the Australian team love him. Every time he does something good, the biggest smiles on the Australian faces of any time during the series. They obviously really value his presence in that side and can see what a future he has. So I think he could be, over the next sort of 5 or 6 years, become an absolute world star.
Well, as I said before, I wasn't really that impressed with Cameron Green, but his last innings, the Tasmanian Test match we're talking about now, he made that 70. I think that was his best innings to date. The couple that he has made, the 80 and the 60 against India and the 80 against England, they were kind of matches where Australia were well in front. He kind of, it suited his game to play aggressive cricket, but when he had to survive, his defence was very shaky. But in that Hobart's first innings, I think he really, really improved himself there, proved that he can survive on a very tough pitch along with Travis Head. Well, in this Test match, England didn't really need to chase that match, albeit green top, so match probably 250, 200, probably sound like 500. But it was a very good start, James. I actually do remember this second innings. It was Burns and Crawley. Got off to an unbelievable start, probably the best opening partnership of the series. In fact, it was. And you're thinking, geez, there's a chance here they could absolutely turn this around. And then just a horrible collapse, absolutely horrible collapse, James.
Yeah, which isn't the first time that England have done that over the last 2 years. Rory Burns, I mean, we'll get into the players individually as we go through, but Rory Burns and Crawley, they started well, didn't they? And Rory Burns was under pressure. But Crawley's obviously come good to some degree in the last 2 Test matches, but it was a false dawn, very much a false dawn, because the frustration, I think, from an English point of view on that final day of the Ashes, they just seem to have been all the fight they had within them had gone. They just rolled over, didn't they? They were backing away towards the end, and it was painful to watch, I think. And I was on commentary, and I'd kind of joked at the start of the innings that they'll be 77 all out. And when they got to the whatever it was for no loss, I actually said on the commentary, well, 77 all out. So obviously they're going to have to bat badly.
68.
They're going to have to bat badly from here to be 77 all out. But they tried the best, didn't they? Because it was a succession and procession of wickets, some really poor shots. But I think that was to some extent a little bit punch drunk. They've been battered all the way through the series. They'd had plenty of blows, and finally they got the knockout on that final day. Obviously, Scotty Boland running in, continuing his fantastic series, finishing that with some terrific figures again. Pat Cummins has been terrific all the way through. Australia's bowling attack is tremendous. I still think, though, I mean, going back to the start, looking at Australia, England got Labuschagne and Smith out collectively for naught in the first innings, and they. How many was it? Warner and Smith?
Yeah, Warner off that no ball. Yeah,
and then if you actually look at the Australians' batting lineup, I think there's weaknesses in that. I think there really has been all the way through the series, but and kind of England's bowlers have almost got away with it scot-free because the batting's been so bad. But I think they've let Australia off the hook to some degree. The kind of simple way of looking at it is if you've been bowled out for 147, bowl them out for 147. But there was always an Australian that or a partnership that developed for Australia that took them over the hill and far away. And England look back at that series, they didn't turn up. The England are better than they showed. There's been a lot of post-mortems in England criticising the county scene and what have you. But there were players on that plane that could have done better
Yep.
than they did.
Yeah, well, I actually figured because there has been changes made to the English county, so I'll get into that a little bit later. But as we've mentioned this on previous podcasts, with England's selection, their selection during the Brisbane Test at Adelaide, whole throughout this didn't make sense. So we've been in that done to death stuff, so we probably won't get into that. But I just want to mention Ben Stokes. Was it the right call to make him play? Would you have played him?
Probably not. I didn't see what the gain was for playing Ben Stokes in what effectively was a dead rubber. I still see it as a dead rubber, despite the fact there's World Test Championship points on it. They haven't really kind of dripped into my head yet, the World Test Championship points. I know
I don't like it.
I think it's a good thing to put a focus on Test cricket, but in terms of the Ashes, it was England were out of it. There was no even winning that final Test match wouldn't have made any difference really. In fact, in many ways, I've heard Rob Key and a few others say exactly the same. I was actually not too disappointed that England got rolled over on that final innings, because it would have almost have given people who were happy with the way things were going a kind of excuse. We didn't have any preparation. We fought back. We got a valiant draw in the 4th Test match. We won the 5th Test match. Things aren't quite as bad as they seem. They are as bad as they seem in English cricket. There was a lot of mistakes made in Australia. The selections you were talking about in the early Test matches. Chris Silverwood coming out after kind of Test match number 2 and saying I'd have selected the same again. That's a really silly thing to say, because obviously I don't think anybody would have done. I could see why he made the selections he did do, but they were the wrong selections. And I think there were Joe Root maybe got a few things wrong in the field. There were certain little passages of play where England let Australia get away. So there were mistakes made in Australia, and I'm quite pleased, hopefully for the benefit of English cricket longer term, that a win in the 5th Test match didn't paper over the cracks and kind of give people a bit of an easy out in terms of changing English domestic cricket, because I think things have to change.
You mentioned that it would have been wallpaper over cracks, but going back to the first day of England, the Brisbane Test match, the first thing that I noticed straight away, forget about the Rory Burns first ball thing, but when England, I was going to say Joe Root, it was part of the problem. When England were bowling first, or fielding, their fielding was dreadful, James. Their fielding was not up to standards. Ever since that first Test match, got a little bit better at the end of the Ashes where it was all done. But their first 2 games of fielding, the Rory Burns drop off David Warner, Joe Root, even himself missed a couple. That really sets a tone of what a team's going to do, James. And they did that horribly. And that's unlike England. Even though England have came here previous times and got absolutely smashed, I feel like their fielding have been very good. This series, their fielding was awful, absolutely awful.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned setting the tone there. The first ball wicket, Rory Burns losing his leg stump. I think, I mean, we were speaking about this before, but I think the keeper sets the tone to a large degree behind the stumps. Being vocal and energised sends that energy around the field. I think Josh Buttler looked drained, and he looked like he didn't want to be there for much of that Ashes trip. And Sam Billings, I don't think he's the future behind the stumps, but he came in and really added some dynamism behind the sticks for England in that 5th Test match and showed the difference. It was chalk and cheese, the attitude behind the sticks there. But I think, I said it right at the start of this the Ashes series that if England were going to compete, let alone win, they had to get batsmen to put their hands up and score big runs in the first innings particularly. That didn't happen. They had to bowl as well as they possibly could. I don't think that really happened either. And they had to take all of their chances in the field, and that certainly didn't happen. The fielding, as you say, was subpar. So, you drop Labuschagne on 21 and he goes on to score 103. That makes a massive difference. You spill chat. These are Test batsmen. As I said, I don't think this Australian lineup is the best it's ever been. I don't think this is the best Australian side it's ever been. I saw Harsha Bogle's comments the other day about this is the easiest time in the world ever to get to number 1 in the Test arena. Australia have done that, I think, with one of the worst teams they've had for some time. And that is no excuse for England, because England have obviously been far worse than a fairly moderate, in my opinion, Australian team. So, and they've got to number one, which kind of shows you a little bit about the standard of Test cricket around the world at the moment. So it's a little bit of a concern for those of us that love Test cricket that a team like Australia. I mean, Lavishane's terrific. I think he's a great player, and I think there's obviously a terrific bowling attack in that Australian side. So there are some world class players in that Australian team, but I don't think it's not quite the Ponting captain side with the Haydens and Langers opening the innings with Ponting getting number 3, etc., Gilchrist, Warren, McGrath, Gillespie, McGrath, etc. You've got some good players in the Australian team, but 1 to 11, there's probably 4 that might have been competing to get into that great Australian team. So I think that's why it's disappointing for me, because England, I felt, had a real chance at the start of this series to actually do something. I'm not saying win it, or not saying particularly rule the roost, but I thought they had a better chance. And the disappointing thing from England's point of view was that they never really laid a glove on Australia. They got beaten by big margins in every Test match. They should have been beaten by a big margin in the one they drew, and that's the disappointment.
But with all due respect, Australia had not played one single Test match before January. England played. They had a series in India. They had a series in Sri Lanka.
England came back more than anybody. Yeah.
So what do you mean? What do you mean by, for our viewers out there that bit confused in this? What do you mean by they had lack of preparation? They had the most preparation. They had 20 Test matches to get this right.
I mean,
not 20, but I'm just guessing around about 20.
I don't subscribe to the lack of preparation thing myself, but it has been something said by the press, both Australian and English press, that both teams really had a lack of preparation coming into this series.
Australia had none.
Yeah, exactly. And England didn't really have any either, because they landed in Australia after a World T20 and it rained on them. So both teams came into that first Test match cold. But obviously, being in Australian conditions, that would have been an advantage to Australia.
Going back in hindsight, England should have sent when they played India, should they have used a younger squad, an experimental squad, or a tune-up for the Ashes squad? Or did they have to win that series?
Well, in India in the summer? Yes. I think there's a lot of people criticising England for rest and rotation. I subscribe to the rest and rotation. I don't think, I personally don't think there's anything to criticise England on for that, because they only did it really with their multi-format players, the Joss Butlers, the Moeen Alis, who played white ball and red ball, or did do at that stage. And you look at England's schedule, there was no time off. It was just ridiculous. In bio bubbles, no time off whatsoever. Some of those guys just needed to step away from it and just kind of inhale some fresh air every now and again and just kind of retune and come back again. So I don't think the rest of the rotation's a bad thing, but I think that there's been a general kind of thought process that I've seen where a lot of people are thinking that, England had a tough time. It was a difficult year, 2021, which obviously went badly for England, but you've got New Zealand at home at the start of the season, world Test champ, ranked number 1 side at the time. In India in any conditions are always difficult, and then on to Australia, which is obviously always one of the kind of pinnacle toughest tours that England have, off the back of a winter where England played in India, which is always probably the toughest tour England have. So it's not been an easy 12 months for Joe Root's team. Or 15 months of Joe Root's team, and I think a lot of people with the rest and rotation in the mix have made the probably quite fair comment that England's were almost using these big series, these Category A series against some of the best sides in the world, as almost warm-up fixtures for the Ashes, because the Ashes was, whenever anybody was talking about the cricket and was writing about the cricket, the Ashes was always mentioned as being on the horizon. Well, this player needs to get fit for the Ashes, or this player needs to find form for the Ashes, etc. And yet you were playing New Zealand and India and Sri Lanka as well, obviously in the middle of all that. And that is almost a little bit disrespectful to Test cricket. It's almost a bit disrespectful for that opposition, because for me, every Test match that somebody puts on an England shirt and walks out there, they should be fully focused 100% and ready to win and to compete. And I don't know whether too much emphasis has been put on the Ashes. I mean, I've heard stories where a previous England captain and coach had told their team, don't even mention the Ashes. We are concentrating on this series now. Obviously, the Ashes is on the horizon. We all know that. But when you're talking to the media, when you're talking to the public, you don't mention the Ashes. And somebody got absolutely hauled over the coals for dropping the Ashes into an answer once, because what the coach was trying to do was say, England, you're concentrating on the here and now. The Ashes will look after itself. If we win this Test match and we win this Test match and we win this Test match, by the time we get to the Ashes, we'll be in good shape. If all we're thinking about is the Ashes, then we're taking our eye off the ball for these Test matches in between. And that's not the right way to do it. We should treat every single Test match with the same kind of focus and respect.
Well, that's probably where Australia had a little bit of an advantage.
They haven't actually played
because they had no Test matches. They could focus always on the Ashes. Ever since that Test match in India at the Gabba finished, they had a series against South Africa. I think they're always going to pull out of that. I don't buy that excuse of COVID. I think they're just looking for any excuse. And they could have prepared for, as I said, probably almost a year for that Ashes Test. While England had series, like I said, in Sri Lanka, in India, they had to come back to play in New Zealand. They came back to play India. But, that's still a lot of Test match cricket. That's still, they didn't have any warm-up games in Australia like they probably would. They would probably play an Australian A team.
Lucas, the lack of preparation isn't an excuse. It's not an excuse.
Yeah, I don't buy that either. I agree with you.
In an ideal world, you'd land in Australia a month before the first Test match. You'd play a couple of the states. You'd play a select 11. You'd have all of that time in sunshine in Australia and get used to the conditions. But we're not living in an ideal world. We're living in a COVID-addled world. We're living in a world where the T20 was delayed until just before the Ashes. There was a very small window. Yes, of course, England landed in Australia and it rained on them, and that didn't help. But you can't. You've got to deal the hand. You've got to play the hand you dealt, and England got dealt that hand. You've got to get on with it, haven't you?
In hindsight, should they have cancelled the tour?
No.
Yeah.
No. It's the Ashes. Get on with it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you put it on the Three Lions shirt, or you put it on the baggy green or whatever, and you can't lift yourself for an Ashes series, then you shouldn't be playing cricket.
Okay. Hindsight again, should they have sent a B team?
No.
Okay. All right. Not
even an answer I'm going to give you any more on, because it's the Ashes.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll go to the player ratings. Just on that, we weren't going to mention the one Test players, but I do want to mention Sam Billings. How did you find him? You said he's not. You don't think he's the future, but how did you see his performance?
I thought it was quite stark, the difference in his body language to some of the other England players, because obviously the rest of the team had been out there all the way through. Sam had been playing in the Big Bash and had been travelling around Australia, having some fun in the white ball arena, and he kind of rocked up to the final Test match and in Hobart, and looked like he was really up for it. He was kind of like springing around, big smile on his face, quite vocal behind the stumps, as if it was the first Test match. It was his first Test match, so no surprise there. But in comparison to the rest of the team, who were kind of like not kind of like crawling around with crying or anything, but there was a big difference in how much energy and how much belief Sam Billings looked to have to the rest of the England team, who had the stuffing knocked out of them really through over the previous 4 games. So it was good to see that, and it was good to see him coming in and taking his opportunity. I thought he kept very well. I thought his energy behind the stumps was terrific. His batting in the first innings was okay. Batting in the second innings, like everybody else's, wasn't there, was it? But I think
Will he be the keeper in the Caribbean coming up, or will they go back to Buttler?
I think it should be Ben Foakes.
Okay.
Ben Foakes. There's got to be a time where somebody actually says, "Let's give Ben Foakes a proper run in this team. He's the best keeper we've got. It's a key position. Get him in there and give him at least 12 months of Test cricket to prove himself." and not be always looking round over his shoulders, think Josh Buttler's creeping. Because you know what, you know how it works. Ben Folkes gets in there, has a couple of moderate Test matches in the West Indies. Josh Buttler lands at the IPL, hits a couple of centuries in the first couple of games, and everybody's suddenly saying, well, Josh Buttler's found his form with the bat again, he's going to be worthwhile. Well, the reason they picked Josh Buttler in the first place was because he scored runs in the IPL, and he's had 56 Test matches now, and he's not scored, not really, lit it up. And I think it's time for somebody else now. It's time to move on, and I think the best keeper is Ben Folkes, and I don't think you lose too much with the bat with Ben Folkes either.
He was fantastic in India with his wicket keeping. Ben Folkes, absolutely unbelievable. We're going to
I thought Ollie Pope kept very well in the one innings. I mean,
yes, I actually was going to go there. Yeah,
one innings. I thought Sam Billings was fine, but I think there's just Ben Folkes has got just that little bit extra behind the sticks. And I standing back, there's probably not a lot in it. Standing up, there's a huge amount in it. And I think Ben Folkes, if you look at his first-class record, yes, there's questions about his game against the short ball. Yes, there's he didn't do very well in India last time, but nobody did. I think it's time to give him a proper run. Otherwise, you're going to end up looking back and sort of saying he's going to be another one of those who didn't actually get the opportunities his game deserved.
So you're saying that you're happy with anyone being keeping Oz as long as it's not James Buttler. So Josh Buttler.
I'm happy to keep.
Okay. I worry about your health, James. I worry about your health if you're going to do that. It's very taxing.
I tried it once in the club game, and England don't turn to me. Really don't turn.
Yeah, to me. I got hit in the box to a fast ball, and I wasn't wearing a box. That's not great. So not great at all. And so when Joe Root got hit, I wasn't laughing because I know how he was feeling. Okay. We'll go into the player ratings. We'll start with Australia. I was going to say Usman Khawaja. He only played 2 matches. It's very hard to judge, but he was outstanding. David Warner. Yeah, David Warner out of 10, James.
David Warner. I'd give him. Are we going to be harsh with this? Are we going to be really honest?
If you want to, I want you to be very honest and harsh because I'm going to be harsh.
I'd give him probably from what I was expecting of him. Obviously, he had a poor series in England last time, and I was looking for him. I thought he was going to be one of the dangers for Australia in Australian conditions. We know that he's good. I'd give him 3 because I don't think he really actually came anywhere near.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give him a 6. I really wanted to give him an 8, but he fell away. He made 2 90s. He should have made those 100s. Let's be honest.
Actually, make it a 4 because he started well.
Yeah. He threw away his wicket when he hit that to straw ball. Either side, it's 4. There's his 100. So I'll give him a 6. Labuschagne.
Love Labuschagne. I know I shouldn't do. I know that he's annoying. The way he chews his bubble gum, the way he just constantly goes meh, 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 all the way through Test matches. No run. He is absolutely annoying as hell, but I can't not like.
He does it in state level. It's not an international thing. He does that in state level in the Sheffield Shield.
I cannot not like the guy because I think he's a breath of fresh air. He just obviously loves his cricket. And he's a terrific player. There was a little bit of a video of him netting yesterday on Twitter. And he's got a terrific game, hasn't he? Any team in the world would want him. And there's just something about him that, despite the fact that you want to slap him around the face, you would immediately want to give him a cuddle afterwards. I'd give him 8 because I think he's terrific.
I'm going to go a 7. His early start was great, just like Warner, but the last 2 Test matches fell away. I think he got found out. I think his luck, if you want to call it, got found out. Didn't really score many runs, so I'm going to give him a 7. Steve Smith.
Another one that a lot was expected of. Another one who English fans certainly have got sick and tired of watching over the previous series because he just batted and batted and batted. Didn't really perform though this time. He got a few scores, a few 50s, didn't he? But I think he's disappointing at the moment. I think I've seen articles in Australia what's happened to Steve Smith kind of stuff.
He's done, James. In my opinion, he's done.
I'd give him a 4 or a 5.
I'm going to give him a 4. Yeah, he made again. Probably should have made that 100 in Adelaide. He got a delivery from James Anderson, but apart from that innings, incidentally, he was captain in that innings. Probably, if you want to look into that a little bit further, apart from that innings, he was dreadful in my opinion. Wasn't the same Steve Smith. I think he's done.
Which is
I
another
don't
reason,
see.
Lucas, why
Yeah.
for England turning up, the two main threats probably, or three main threats were Warner, Smith, and Labuschagne, and probably Warner and Smith didn't really do anything particularly. So that's another reason it's disappointing England didn't do better.
Well, if you said to me we're only giving Steve Smith a 4 and David Warner a 7,
exactly,
you think,
and I gave him less.
Geez, we sure we lost 4-0. Travis Head.
Travis came in. I mean, there's not many times somebody that scores 360, 70 runs, whatever it was in the series, would top the charts.
Yeah.
But fair play to him. In the conditions he came in, and I thought he attacked things. He kind of had a series where he wasn't going to die wondering. He played his attacking shots. He got on with it, and he was the kind of almost like Brad Haddin kind of old kind of situation, or Gilchrist of old, not as a keeper, but coming in the middle order after Australia had sometimes got off to a poor start and rescuing it with some attacking play. I'd give Travis Head a 9. I think he was certainly in the batting stakes the star for Australia.
I think he was the best batsman in the series. I'll give him a 10. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because he's from South Australia, but I think he's clearly their best batsman.
You got to keep the 10s up your sleeve. You can't just dole them out willy nilly.
So 10 for Travis Head. This one's a little bit tough to grade because we have to grade his batting and bowling as one. So Cameron Green.
Cam Green, and bowling was superb. You'd probably give him an 8 or a 9 for his bowling. His batting got better, upward curve as the series went on. Probably for his batting, you'd give him a 5-ish.
Yep.
So I think overall, maybe a 6 or a 7, probably towards the 7. But in terms of potential, he's a 10. Yeah,
batting, I think, apart from that one innings in Brisbane, in Hobart, and the other one where he made runs, Australia well in front, I'm going to give him a 4. His bowling, as you said, was very good. Surprising, very surprising. He took 13 wickets. I'm going to give his bowling an 8. Overall, I think average. Just think his batting wasn't that great. Alex Carey, for me.
Alex Carey was the biggest disappointment for me in the Australian side. I was looking forward to seeing him play because despite the fact I'm obviously looking at England to win because I'm English, I'm always looking to try and see the best players doing the best things. And I like Alex Carey a lot, and I thought he was better than he showed. I think when he looks back at the series, he'd be very disappointed. I mean, even in that final innings in Hobart where he got 49, 50, whatever it was, he was scratchy, really scratchy, struggling to time the ball all the way through that innings. And his keeping,
49.
Yeah, his keeping was poor. A couple of shell chances. I think he's certainly not made that place his own. He had a real opportunity to go in and nail it down, and he hasn't done that. I'd give Alex Carey a 3. I think maybe even a 2.
Yeah, I love Alex Carey, but I've been raving on all summer that Jimmy Peirson, if you're going to pick a batsman, should be Jimmy Peirson. As you said, Alex Carey was probably the most disappointing. Sorry, Alex, but a 3, not good enough for me.
I think
should have done really better.
Alex Carey is in a danger of becoming Australia's Josh Buttler. Somebody that in white ball cricket is terrific at times, can play scintillating innings in white ball. And obviously in white ball cricket, your keeping's masked a little bit because you're taking far fewer balls behind the stumps. When you have to concentrate for 5 days behind the stumps, it's a different kettle of fish. And so I worry for Alex Carey. He needs to sort himself out. I think it's probably a mental thing as much as anything.
I think he needs runs because he only made another low score in the Big Bash tonight. I'm unsure of that. I don't watch the Big Bash. I don't care about the Adelaide Strikers. I only care about one state team, and in my state, and that's the Redbacks. And he got out cheaply. I think he needs runs because there's 2 other keepers, Josh Ingles and Jimmy Peirson. If they make runs, I think Alex Carey's in all sorts of trouble. He needs runs. Pat Cummins, a little bit under the. He took 21 wickets, but he wasn't actually the main talker with the bowlers. That was Scott Boland. So Pat Cummins a little bit underrated here. No one really talked about him, but he had a good series.
Oh, he's not going to be underrated. Not going to be underrated by me. What did I give Labuschagne? The 9?
You gave him a 9. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Pat Cummins on that basis gets 10. He gets my 10 for the Australian side. I think he was the star performer for them. Whenever the captain throws in the ball, whenever he throws the ball to himself, he knows exactly what he's going to get. He's absolutely metronomically accurate. He's always asking questions. The amount of times he beat the bat, just missed the stumps. Best bowler in the world at the moment in terms of pace for me. Although, like we talked about Joe Root earlier, when you're captaining a struggling side, it's difficult. When you're captaining a side that's doing well, it's possibly a lot easier. But I think he came in first series as captain. A lot was expected, or a lot was thought about that. Can a bowler captain a team? Is Pat Cummings going to be the right person to come in? Obviously, with Tim Payne falling by the wayside just before the series started. But he answered all those questions, didn't he? I think Steve Smith provided a very good foil as vice captain for him. And I think he came in, he had an absolute dream series. Apart from the COVID missed test match, he was absolutely excellent all the way through.
I don't see it that way. I'm going to give him a 6. If going up to Hobart, the Hobart test match, he took 6 wickets in that match, in the Hobart test match. So I thought it was average. I think the last test match has boosted his stats a little bit. That's just me.
I'll tell you what, Lucas. Look, watching the series from an English point of view, I don't care about Scott Boland and all the rest of them. Josh Hazelwood missing as well, there's a bit more Pat Cummins' shoulders. If you're an English batsman, the last person you want to see at the top of their mark is Pat Cummins.
Fair enough. Another one that's probably gone underrated, Mitchell Starc.
Love Mitchell Starc. If you're watching, Mitchell, hello.
He's your Yorkshire boy.
Hello from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
He's a top lad, and I think he's one of the most. Australians need to realise what they've got in Mitchell Starc. I see so many articles. I see so many commentators saying, Shane Warne's a rent-a-gob, isn't he? He's just always saying Starc should be gone and everything at the start of the series. You've got to realise what Mitchell Starc is. He's not going to be your line and length merchant. You might get a couple of loose spells from him because he's different. He's left arm over. He gives you a little bit of different angles, gives the batsman something else to think about. And when he gets it right, he's as good as anybody. And he's capable of coming on. And when he suddenly gets the flow and he suddenly gets a little bit of luck, he can take you 4 or 5 very quick wickets and change the course of an innings. And Mitchell Starc, for me, he's a terrific, terrific bowler. I thought he bowled well at times in this series, really well. And I thought he maybe had a couple of dodgy spells, but that only is just what I've just said. I'd give him a very solid 7.
Yeah, I was going to give him a 7. There were times where he did get smashed a little bit. I think the problem with Mitchell Starc is inconsistency. I think when we see his best, we think, "Oh, geez, this guy's a world beater." But when he's bowling,
take him for what he is, though, Lucas. With Mitchell Starc that if you bring him on, there may be the chance that you might go for a few more. He's not going to be your Josh Hazelwood or your Pat Cummins, who's always nibbling around on the top of off stump. He's not that kind of bowler. Yeah.
So I'll give him, as you said, a solid 7. Josh Hazelwood only played 1 test match. Jai Richardson 1 test match. We won't go into them. Nathan Lyon. Another one we didn't really mention too much.
Yeah, he lasted longer than everybody, didn't he? He was still out in the bar on that final evening, getting arrested by the police in Hobart. Yeah. How ridiculous was that? Anyway, that's another
stupid.
Nathan Lyon, for me, he's another one where you, as an English person, you really want to dislike the guy. You watch him patrolling the close in field. He's always got a little word in the ear of the batsman. He's always trying to be an annoyance. He's that little scratch that you just can't get rid of, isn't he? If say you've got a plaster cast on, when anybody's ever had a plaster cast on, you get scratch halfway up it, you get your knitting needles, you can't quite get rid of it. Nathan Lyon is that scratch, and he's that person that is absolute. But he's got something, hasn't he? And you can't help but admire the guy. Even with the batting at Hobart coming in and hitting those sixes and taking Australia probably 30 or 40 runs in that partnership further on than they should have been. And as a bowler, he's a bloody good spinner, isn't he? He's a bloody good spinner. He knows exactly what he's trying to do and trying to get after him on occasions. Never really lasts for too long. Maybe didn't get quite the pitches in this series that he would have for, because they were green tops. They weren't the kind of like hard bouncy tracks that were going to deteriorate on days 4 and 5. And even if they were, England never got into days 4 and 5 at times. But so for me, Nathan Lyon gets a very solid, probably on this series, a 5. But in terms of his career, he's a lot higher.
Yeah. I'll go with 5 because he didn't really have to do much.
Yeah.
Because as he said, the pitches didn't really suit him. Now he's going to Pakistan where pitches will suit him more than they did will in this Ashes series. So I'll give him a 5. That's not saying he had a bad series. It's that he didn't have much to do.
He did what was required of him. Didn't really
exactly,
have to do a lot.
But he just didn't do enough to get a higher grade.
He's still at each. He's still at each underneath the plastic cast for me.
Oh yeah. Oh well, this guy, Michael Nisa only played 1 Test match before I get into him. But now the main eventer, the one that took us all by surprise, Mr. Buttler, Scott Boland. Or you can't. There's words not enough to describe how good he was in those 3 Test matches.
So, I mean, we started off the show with me making a political comment about the Indigenous population in Australia.
Yeah.
Second guy from that background to come into the Test team for Australia.
First one, Jason Gillespie. Yep.
Yeah, very fitting that he got the man of the match in that first Test match, and it was an Indigenous named trophy, wasn't it?
Yes.
Very, very nice little moment, that, I think. And you thought at the time, well, maybe he's had his moment in the sun. Maybe that's his, like, he burst onto the scene. Then he might not even finish the series. But had that little bit of an injury, didn't he? Still made the 5th Test match. Every single time he ran into bowl. He was economical. He was attacking both sides of the bat. He was attacking the stumps. He was attacking the pads. He was taking wickets. 6 for 7 was helped by England. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's been gifted a few wickets by the English. But if you are one of these guys that, when you go to bed at night, you kind of dream about what it might be like to play for your country, like I do every single night. Never going to happen for me. But it's the kind of thing, if you actually were given that in a kind of script for a film, that you were going to burst onto the scene and play 3 Test matches for your country, take 6 for 7 on your debut and carry on taking your wickets and take all of your wickets at around about 10 or just under throughout the series, continually be the star of the show for your country, you'd say, mate, I love this, but this script's a bit too far-fetched for me. This is just bonkers. He's had a bonkers Ashes, absolutely crazy. And you can't give him anything less than a 15. I'm sorry, it's out of 10, I know. But this is stratospheric stuff. His average, career average, you look back at the history of the game about who's averaging around what he's averaging. He's right in the top tier, all-time averages. He's had a series that you would kill for if you're a prospective international.
Well,
absolutely incredible.
So you're going to give him a 10, obviously.
It's a 15.
15, yeah, I'd give him 100 if I could. Obviously,
I know it's out of 10, and I hate people saying, well, that I'm going to give it 110%, because you can't, mate. You can't. But in this scoring system, we can make it what we want, and he gets a 15.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to give him 100, you can give him a damn 100. He deserves it. I think he was their best bowler. And now there's talk that Josh Hazlewood needs to start taking wickets in Sheffield Shield because he may not make it to Pakistan.
You can't play it.
The way that Scott Boland is, I can't drop him. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry to Josh Hazlewood, but I can't drop Scott Boland unless he falls off a cliff. He's playing in the first Test for me.
Well, there's your way back in then, Josh. Take him on the cliffside walk.
Yeah. We'll go into the England. Oh, sorry, I missed one. Marcus Harris.
Got better as the series went on, but it was a very low bar. He came in looking seriously scratchy. He came in having won his place. It was a little bit of a lottery as to whether he's going to play at the start of it. certainly was never going to be scaring any of the English bowlers too much. And even by the time he finished the series, he was dropped obviously for the last Test match, but in the fourth Test match, he was starting to look like he was understanding where everything was a little bit more. But he hasn't nailed that place down.
No,
and he gets a 2 from me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 2. His selection didn't make sense to me. I would have went with a young Tim Warder or Bryce Street who made that 100 against the English Lions. Didn't make sense. I thought he was the worst out of all the batters, Marcus Harris. Now we will go into the England team. We'll start with their batters.
Can't we start with the bowlers?
Yeah, I think there are going to be a lot of 1s and 0s in here.
Can't we start with the bowlers so that I can work my way down?
The bowlers did have a good Test match, but we might want to finish on a good note. So we'll start with the batters. Zach Crawley.
Everybody in England is suddenly inking Zach Crawley in as the opener for the future. It's almost like going back 12 months to when he scored that double century against Pakistan. Oh, this guy is going to be. He averaged, despite the fact that he had a half decent series, he still averaged only about 27 with the bat. He had one good innings of 77 when all of the field was behind the wicket because Australia were so far on top in the game. All you had to do is push it in front of square and you were going to get 2 or 4. So obviously he's done okay and he's certainly worth his place in the West Indies. But I don't know whether he's a Test player. I really hope he is, because if he carries on playing like he did in that 77, then he's going to be good to watch. But he's had 12 months without hardly scoring a run for England. So the jury is massively still out for me with Zach Crawley. I'm going to give him a 4.
Okay. I'm going to give 3. Apart from, as you said, his last innings where he showed something in that 77 in the Sydney, he wasn't up to standard for me. So gets worse. Rory Burns.
1. Shocking, all over the place. River dance. His feet didn't know where they were going. Even when he supposedly got himself sorted out when he came back in for that 5th Test match, yes, it was better, but it's like saying you've got chicken pox instead of something worse, isn't it? You know, he was really, really poor. He's got a history of fighting back and kind of showing stamina and a bit of fortitude, but he needs to do that. People that have got him inked in on their potential West Indies tour, I haven't, because I think it's time to look for somebody else. He's averaging 30 after a significant number of Test matches, which is not good enough. I think, you know, in this current age, it's harder to open. Of course it is. And there's some very good attacks around the world, but I think you need to be averaging at least 35 to be, you know, suggesting that you can play Test cricket. Rory Burns, for me, has had a shocking Ashes, and he's lucky to get 1.
1. For real, did he even play?
0.75 then. Let's go. Can we break the 1s into fractions? 0.75.
Well, like I said, the last innings showed something, but where was that in the first, second, third Test match? David Malan.
David Malan's interesting to me. He started well and then he fell off the cliff.
Yeah.
I think in the 5th Test match, I think his wife had a baby, which wasn't expected to come just yet. So I think
that's a shame.
So there was well, no, it's good. He's had a baby.
Oh, okay. Well, he would want to be there, wouldn't he?
But yeah, I think so. I think he was obviously, after a long Ashes series, which would have felt very long for England, his head would have been with his family. So I think there's mitigating circumstances around the end of it. I think overall, in terms of a score for our thing, I think he's probably a 4 or a 5. But I think I certainly don't want to see him discarded by England, because I think if you look at his Test career, I think he's better than he's shown. And I think the majority of his Test matches have been in Australia in difficult Ashes tours. And of course, you can be judged on that, but I think the guy deserves to get a bit of a run in the side where maybe it's not quite as as intense as that, and a chance to actually prove himself in a different environment. West Indies might be exactly what suits him. We talk a lot about the ball coming onto the bat and what have you. I'd like to see him start in the Caribbean, and I'm going to give him. I think he's better than Zach Crawley in terms of this series, so 4.5 or 5.
Has he played his last series in the Ashes in Australia? Will he be back here again?
I'm not quite sure how old David is. He's getting cracking on into the 30s now. So
34, I think.
Yeah, possibly.
Would you leave him in Australia to play Sheffield Shield? Now, we had this argument before. Now, I actually did some history on this. Mason Crane actually did play a couple of Sheffield Shield games for New South Wales when he was playing for their domestic side.
But I don't think the rules allow it, and I think ECB were getting criticised for not giving English batsmen more experience in overseas conditions. And,
they're allowed to. I did the research. They are allowed to. Like I said, Mason Crane played 2 games for New South Wales. He was playing in the Div 1 state Premier Cricket in New South Wales. He was there. He won the
full Sheffield Shield match then.
Yeah, he played 2 Sheffield Shield matches for New South Wales. Okay. Absolutely guarantee you, James. I promise you. So they are allowed to.
ECB have made noises that they're going to write to the Australian Cricket Board to ask for permission. So I don't know whether.
I think they should. And I think Milan would benefit from that because he does well on these pitches.
Milan will be hoping to go to the West Indies in the Test team. So
of course. Yeah.
I imagine he'll go home, see his baby, and then head off to the Caribbean. Good luck to him.
Moving on. I agree with you. Good start. It fell away. 5. This one for me, Joe Root. Now, I did warn you, James. I did warn you that his luck is out. He will not do much this tour. I warned you that. He just could not continue his form, just like Steve Smith. And I don't think he was this good on this tour with his batting, James. But you be the judge.
I really feel for Rooty because I think.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah,
he's like a snail. He's carried that England batting lineup around on his back for 15 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it's been now. Snail's probably not that sexy. What moves faster that has something on the back? Like a kangaroo, he's got a pouch in the front. He's bouncing around the world with the England team in this pouch. It's so much pressure on Joe Root. I was watching some highlights of the 2010-11 triumph that England had in Australia, where that batting lineup of Alistair Cook, you've got Peterson in there, you've got Jonathan Trott in there, Andrew Strauss opening with Cook. If you slotted Joe Root into that batting lineup without the pressure to be the main man and to carry he would get so many more runs because he'd just be able to go out there and bat and not even think about it. I don't think he did too badly. He would have wanted more from himself. He'll be his own worst critic and he'll be very disappointed, I think, with his own performances. But you've got to kind of think about the bar that he set himself. He's obviously the 2021 Test Player of the Year. Think he fully deserves that with the volume of runs he scored. I think I'd give him a 5 like David Milan. And he was capable of much more. But even so, his average for the series, it's kind of quite striking for me that when you look at Joe Root and people sort of say, well, he didn't do anything in that country and he's averaging 38 in that country. That's actually more than any of the other England batsmen are averaging in their entire career elsewhere. So kind of a lot more is expected of Joe Root by the English public, and he usually delivers. He'll be gutted. I think he can get more. He'll be very disappointed that one of the things on his CV is still not an Ashes 100 down under, but 5 from me, Lucas.
Yeah. I'm going to give him a 4. I don't think he was that great. I do feel sorry for him, as you said. He was up against it. No player should go through what Joe Root has done through the last 12 months, carrying that side. I feel for him completely but I have to judge his batting. I don't think his batting was nowhere near as good. I don't know if it's
Game of Thrones or whether it's Braveheart or something, but there's a scene in the film where one soldier is out in the middle of a field with his sword above his head, and the entire army, that's the opposition army, is coming towards them. The cavalry's coming towards him, and he's there, kind of on his own, and the rest of them are all behind him. That's Joe Root in Test cricket. He's out there on his own, fending off the opposition.
That's the William Wallace Braveheart. But I just have to give it on his batting. I actually thought he did better than I thought. I thought he would just go completely off the cliff. He scored a couple of 50s. So I'll give him a 4, but sorry for that. Now we are up against time, so I can't mention everybody here because the boss is getting in my ear.
Quickly, and I'll give you just the score.
Yeah, the boss is going through my ear because we have to review other series. So sorry about that. I do actually want to mention depth of this one, Ben Stokes, because he was the interesting one.
3.
Yeah, I don't think he should have played this series. That's just me. 4. Ollie Pope.
1. I wouldn't take him to the Caribbean. Needs to work on his game. Needs to work on his mental approach.
Yep.
Has got all of the shots in the world. Got plenty of talent. Hopefully has a long future in Test cricket, but he needs to work himself out.
Yep. Okay. 1. Sam. We won't do Sam Billings. He only played one match. Chris Rokes.
1.
Yeah.
Good with the bat at times, but that wasn't what he was primarily used for. His bowling was toothless.
Yeah, he was not good. This one, Mark Wood.
Star of the show for England. He was. I did a tweet after the series to say England should kind of like almost give them tickets on the plane by virtue of how well they've done in the series. Mark Wood for me was in first class. You maybe put Jimmy Stewart Broad and a couple of the others in economy. In business. The rest would be in economy, and I had Chris Silverwood and Ollie Pope swimming home. So Mark Wood, absolutely superb. He has got everybody loves him. Australia love him, England love him because they can see that he's giving everything he's got. He always has a smile on his face, and he bowls quickly. He has the good series for England. He was unlucky at times. I was really pleased to see him get that 6 for, which was quickly forgotten because England. But he deserved that because he could have had that in other Test matches, and he bowled well. I'd give him an 8 or a 9. I don't think I can give him a 10 on the losing side, but he's right up there.
Well, I was going to give him a 9 before Hobart. I thought he's fantastic, and then he's taken a 6 wicket. I'm actually going to give him a 10. He was England's best player for me. Out of batting and bowling, he was by a mile. It wasn't even close.
By a long way.
Not even close. He was their best player. So we'll just quickly go through these. Ollie Robinson.
Started well, fitness issues, needs to work on that. Certainly got a game that was potent in Australia, but his speeds were going down. I think he's got a lot to learn still, but he's got a lot of promise. I'll give him a 5, maybe a 6.
Yeah, I thought he was good. I'll give him a 7. I don't care about speeds. I don't care about that. But he was economical. I thought he was very good. I'll give him a 7. We have to race through these, unfortunately, James. Stuart Broad.
I give him probably didn't get to play the Test matches he'd want to. I'll give him a 5 because I don't think he was outstanding.
Again, probably didn't get the chance to bowl. He only played 3 Test matches. Gave it to David Warner still, so that hasn't changed. I'd say 6. James Anderson.
6, always reliable, know what he's going to get. 6.
Yeah, I thought James Anderson's very good again. Only played 3 Test matches, but I thought he was very good. I'm going to give him a 7.
You're more generous on these English players than I am.
Yeah, it should be the other way around. Hassi Hamid. I won't be generous with this guy.
I really feel for Hassi because I think he's a better player than he's shown. I think Australia is probably a tough tour for him. He got off to 27 in the first Test match, and you thought, maybe this could be something better than I'm hoping for. I think he'll be incredibly disappointed. He won't go to the Caribbean, and he needs to rebuild at Notts. I'd give him a 2 because I think he's better than Rory Burns, but he certainly wasn't good enough.
He was better than Rory Burns, but I'm still going to give him a 1.
saying he's better than Rory Burns is not the highest of praise, is it?
Yeah, it's not. Sorry, Hassim. Another one that didn't do too good. Also, Joss Buttler.
Joss is constant frustration for me. I get pilloried by some quarters for saying that he shouldn't play Test cricket. I've never really had him in my English Test team. I appreciate the fact that he's tried. I think this is probably the end of the road for Joss in Test cricket. Give him the white ball, concentrate on the white ball, dominate the white ball, be the world's best in white ball cricket. Thanks for coming, Joss. His drop catches at times cost England. He's never really got the runs that his talent in white ball cricket would suggest to some people that he can get. In terms of a score out of 10, probably a 1 again.
1. Just keeping was horrible. There were times where he showed some batting glimpses, but no, sorry, 1. Last 2. Just race through this one because on that last one I do want to talk about in depth. So just give me a number here. Jack Leech.
2.
Yeah, he got battered. Never really got a chance to settle.
I thought he showed fight. He came back and he bowled better as the series went on. Other bowlers might have completely fallen apart after that first Test match. He didn't. He's got a bit about him, but it's only a 2 stop.
I'm not going to give him a 1 because it was like Lamb to sort. I'll give him a 2. Now this one, he only played 2 Test matches, but this one was an interesting case because we're going to do a minimum of 3. But this one had to be said. Johnny Bairstow made that brilliant 100, fantastic 100. What did you make of that?
Fantastic 100, wasn't it? And I thought he played well in the previous Test match and maybe played a daft shot and got himself out, which he'd have been cross with himself for. Maybe he doubled down. This is where, you talk about serious preparation and having to get games under your belt to come in. Johnny had sat through the first 3 Test matches and watched from a distance and then came in cold, but came in warm, didn't he? Because he played well from the start. Having watched him play since he was a teenager with Yorkshire, undoubtedly an incredibly talented cricketer, hits the ball hard. He's shown that in white ball cricket. Maybe white ball cricket is his success in white ball cricket has been to the detriment of his Test cricket at times. He's been messed around by England, turned up at games a little bit like Moeen Ali, never knowing whether he's A, going to be needed, B, whether he's got the gloves, or C, which position in the order he's going to bat in. I think this is the time now for England to actually say to Johnny Bairstow, you are our number 5, you are our number 6, whatever it's going to be. This is your role. We trust you. Play Test cricket and do what you did in that Ashes Test match on a regular basis, because he has got the talent to do it. And for me, can we give him a score out of 10 for 2 matches? Well, if you can,
go on. Go on.
It's got to be a 7 or an 8 or a 9 because I don't think he could have done a lot more than he did.
I think I was going to say 8 because he only played 2 Test matches, but in those matches, especially Sydney where he made 100.
Oh, you see, only Centurion for England.
Yeah, faultless.
Which was a big thing. And,
I have to give him an 8. Coaching, Chris Silverwood.
Had a poor time, didn't he? I think he's a top bloke. This isn't a personal kind of slating of him because I think he's a good guy. I think
we're objective here, James. We can be objective.
I think he. I think I've said to you before on here. He's been handed a gun with no bullets in it at times. And that's not necessarily a good thing. But he's made the wrong decisions at times. I mean, whether he and Joe Root made those decisions in tandem, and obviously he's going to give his captain. Probably the final say, isn't he? Unless he really thinks something. But I think he'll probably still be the coach in the Caribbean because England probably need a bit of time if they're going to replace him before the summer. It was difficult for Chris Woakes. Really difficult. You can't give him anymore. If you're giving some of the batsmen 1s and 2s, he's in that same category, isn't he?
Yeah.
Very poor Ashes for him.
Yep. I'll give him a 2. Like I said, selection. Didn't understand the Chris Woakes selection. Didn't understand Jimmy Anderson playing first set. Should have played second match. Like Woods if you swap Wood. Justin Langer, JL.
Off the back of a T20 World Cup success, he's battered England in the Ashes. He's got to be right up there in terms of pointage, in terms of like an 8 or a 9 or something. So I'm sure he's made mistakes along the way as well. Yeah. But it's incredible, isn't it, that Chris Silverwood possibly looks like he's going to continue in his job, and Justin Langer is under the microscope in terms of his job. It makes no sense, does it?
Well, before leading this, he had a dispute with his main bowlers. Mitchell Starc had a meeting with him. It was one of those honest sessions. What did you think of him? And I think Justin Langer wants brutal honesty, and he got that. But I can't say a bad thing about him. He won the T20 World Cup. I'm not going to, that's not going to blow my spirit up winning the T20 World Cup. That's just me. But, he did retain the Ashes.
Oof.
That's what his main goal was.
Got
he has to.
A horrible vision of your skirt being blown up on that Marilyn Monroe poster. Oh.
Yeah. Just an old reference from the True Lies movie. Yeah.
Well, I like
think
Justin Langer. He's an incredibly intense individual, isn't he? When you see, and he obviously loves cricket, lives and breathes it. And I think it opens up a kind of slightly more general discussion about player power. Players have got a huge amount of power. In the olden days, the head selector, the coach, the captain would be the bosses, and the rest of them would kind of like scurry around, curtsy kind of thing. Whereas, not totally. There'd be.
Where they announced it on the radio, there wasn't internet. You just have to hear if you got picked on the radio. I wasn't born then, James, but apparently they were the good old days.
But I was born before electricity, so they used to have carrier pigeons, Lucas. But that's all gone now. Players able to go to the IPL, have central contracts, get millions of whatevers a year. They have a big voice now, and egos, and they have things, axes to grind, and they have views that are expressed, and sometimes those views come out in the press rather than directly to a person. It's a different kind of world, and you've got to be, as the head coach, you've got to kind of cope with that, haven't you?
I think he'll put his money where his mouth is in the Pakistan tour, where we haven't won in Asia since 2005. Well, 2011, but two of those test matches were washed out, so I'm not going to count that. So I will learn a lot more from that series in that. But anyway, James, we have to wrap the show. I've got 40 messages from the boss. He's not happy because he's got his own guest to come. But sorry about that.
I'll tell you what. The boss is, he doesn't talk to you for weeks on end, and then you get 10 text messages in the space of 5 seconds, don't you?
Yeah. Well,
I told him this morning, Lucas, just chill out, mate. Just relax.
Well, that's what I've been trying to tell you now. We're in the middle of ratings, good friends. Just relax. We'll get through them. But
you've got Lucas and James on your channel, two of the nicest guys in cricket. We're giving out our opinions in an honest way and talking. You're trying to get us off. I think we should stay on for another hour, Lucas. Now, just to make a point.
Oh well, when's the next Test match? We can stay until then till England play West Indies in March.
Let's raise some money for charity. We'll stay on here forever, and we'll just carry on talking. You can have a sleep and I'll talk. I'll have a sleep and you talk. We just carry on going forever. Yeah.
I tell you what, I was tempted to do a watch along during the Ashes. I was tempted for that. Anything for charity, I'm happily will do. But anyway, James, thank you for.
You're not going to heed my instructions there and just carry on for another hour. You're going to basically bow to him, aren't you? You're going to bow and straight. Go on, Lucas.
Well, they did beat us, James. Unfortunately, so we can't be that judgmental of the Indians.
India control international cricket. We can't let Gaurav control us.
Well, I guarantee you, they don't control Cricket Australia, because if they did those antics like they did in England, not playing the last Test match, pretending they've won the series, well, they wouldn't have got away with it. Trust me.
I would have. Test match number 6 of 6 is coming up this summer in England. India come back for one solitary Test match.
Well, there we go. Forget about the last 3 that happened last year. That does not mean anything. It's just a once-off Test match to prove who's the better team. And Jesus, I hope England absolutely destroy them. Sorry, did I say that loud? But
should we talk about the next calendar year then in Test cricket, just to keep Gareth happy?
Well, it's not going to keep me happy. Well, I've got my own problems with Australia playing in Asia. So let us win Pakistan first, and then I'll get back to you. Well, hopefully, if we can beat Pakistan, because if we can't beat Pakistan in Asia, think I'm not going to be very happy. I think there's it's one of those shows that you will want to watch me, because I think I might lose it and go absolutely mental if we can't win in Asia this against Pakistan. No disrespect to Pakistan, but damn, I want to win in Asia. 2005.
They'll beat you.
Please.
They'll beat you. I'm backing Pakistan to win that.
Oh, fuck me, James. Of course, you call. I've said a sort of naughty word there. Of course, James. You know, and I'd back West Indies to beat England. And the way that South Africa are going, I wouldn't rule them out to beating England in England.
Big win that one for South Africa against India, wasn't it?
Massive, absolutely massive. I think every man and his dog expected India to win their first series in South Africa. Never turned out. I think they got a bit cocky, in my opinion. I think
India have gone off the boil a little bit, and it's. I made the comment about IPL and white ball cricket affecting the Test arena and batting in the Test arena, and I think there's a little bit of evidence that even India are maybe suffering a little bit from white ball creeping into the red ball game.
Well, they say that they're the best white ball, you know, God's ever created, but I don't see them winning any white ball competitions recently.
But for a long time. I mean, we can talk about that for the next hour. I mean, how many messages have you got from Gaurav since we continued from the last 10 minutes?
Well, the tab says 26, but then it ends there. So, but we're respectful because he wants to speak to his own guests. So with respect, that we will end this show. Thank you for reviewing the Ashes, but that does not mean we're done. We're going to review the West Indies series, not the white ball series, the Test series. We're going to bring you back for that. So do not worry about that. I mean, don't think, James, that we're just doing this for the Ashes. You're going to have to put up with me through the Caribbean.
Can you make sure next time that you ask me to come on, England have actually done something half decent, so I'm not just having a crack at them. I actually like to be positive about cricket sometimes.
Well, the way that England are going, it didn't help with the white ball results that's happening. A collapse there. So, but as we said, we don't really care about that. We just care about Test match cricket. Hopefully, James.
I like the white ball too, but. Yeah, that Test series in March, England have a poor record in the Caribbean, so it's not.
I think last time they went there, they got belted. Didn't Jason Holder score a double hundred?
They've only won in the Caribbean, I think, once in the last 34 years or something like that. So it's there's been a few drawn series there, but there's been times, obviously in the pomp of West Indies, where England have come back battered and bruised and absolutely hammered. So a lot of people are thinking, it's West Indies next, England will win that. But it's not that. It's not that simple, I'll tell you.
Well, incidentally, we our last away win was against the West Indies in West Indies. So that was in 2014. So we have no trouble beating them, James.
I've got 38 minutes left till my next meeting, Lucas, so we can just carry on chatting.
Unfortunately, I sadly don't. I'm getting bombarded. I'm getting killed here. So we have to wrap this.
I'm quite enjoying watching Swerve and Gaurav getting hot under the collar.
It's not good for me, trust me, because I'm the one at the receiving end. You're not, James.
IPL auction coming as well. We'll talk about that. There's quite a few names in the hat for that too.
I don't watch IPL. I'm not saying that because of Gaurav here. I just don't watch IPL.
The IPL 12th and 13th of February, the auction. That is actually as interesting as the actual matches themselves to some degree. I thought the bidding on players and seeing people sold off and who gets the most money and stuff. I find that absolutely fascinating.
It's like blood money. It's like an absolute blood. It's like a UFC boxing world. I'm trying to find the right word for that. It's like a gun for hire tournament.
So,
whoever's
Lucas.
Yeah.
If you got phoned up by a few IPL franchises, then they said, Lucas, we need an Aussie wicketkeeper batsman. Are you free to come over? We can guarantee you the bidding's going to be, there's going to be at least 3 or 4 franchises in for you here. There's 10 franchises in it. Guarantee you at least 3 or 4, but there might even be more that want you. You're going to get bid up to serious cash. Are you going to say, actually, on principle, no, White ball cricket is ruining the game. I don't like the IPL. I'm staying at home. You would take the money. Of course you would. Anybody would.
Well, by itself, yeah. But if you said to me, would you take an IPL contract over a Sheffield Shield contract? The answer would be absolutely not. I'll take the Sheffield Shield all day long.
Yeah. No, you would. You would take it. I am in your camp when it comes to loving Test cricket.
Yeah.
Furthering the red ball, wanting to see the balance, certainly at least 50-50s between white ball and red ball. But if you are a player, I've got no issue. I hate the 100. I've got no issue with players playing in it.
I'm not playing that.
Yourself. You look after yourself in this life. And if you're a player, you've got a finite career, you go where the dosh is. You go where the dosh is to feed your family and to make your life good. And if you get a choice between playing county championship cricket on, I don't know how many, thousands of pounds in a year, and going to the IPL and making £1.2 million in 6 weeks, what are you going to choose? You're going to go IPL. Of course you are.
I wouldn't. I seriously wouldn't. Because I
don't believe you.
Okay. Well, if IPL said we want you for a whole season, Sheffield Shield says we want you for one game, I'd seriously take the one game. Because
I hate the 100. I said to propose that. Oppose the 100. I really can't see the point or the reason. As George Bell said, it's like a turd in the middle of the room. The rest of cricket in England's kind of stepping around. Perfect analogy, and I really don't like it. But if I was a player and somebody phoned me up and said, right, you've got 3 weeks work in the 100 and you're going to make £250,000 or whatever because you're going to be category A, I'd take it. Of course I would.
I think you've got enough money, James, to row about IPL. You know,
well, Gaurav's probably going to be docking my wages for this, isn't he?
Wow, you're getting paid for this. Now we need to get into this if that's the case, because I'm not getting a damn cent.
Oh man,
and I have to wake up I have to stay awake at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to do bloody Ashes series and all that, and I'm not getting a cent.
Do you think I'd suffer talking to you and not get paid for it? I'm getting serious money for this. Gaurav's very generous.
Oh, geez. Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us to review the Ashes. And like I said, we'll try when we bring you for the Caribbean series. We'll try and see if England can actually bat and make you.
Is this another attempt at you to try and do an outro?
No, not at all.
You're trying to get rid of me, aren't you?
I am actually, yeah. I think I need to have a word with this pay dispute thing. That's got me. You've got me shook, James. For the first time in this series, you've got me shook.
I've got a written contract from him. He's really. I think we're meeting next week to renegotiate. So I think he's trying to get. He's going to up it.
So. Well, I seem to have the same problem with Michael Wagner, the New Zealand journalist. So I'm presuming you know him as well. Oh, great! We can all do this whole thing at one time. You know, if we're in a World Cup semi-final, you know, we'll get James Buttler from England, we'll get Michael Wagner from New Zealand, Lucas from Australia, and Gaurav from India. How fantastic would that be? That would be absolutely awesome for the ratings.
Well, maybe we get Michael on side and we form a union to kind of make equal pay for everybody.
We've already had a chat about that with Michael backstage. I've said too much there, and I don't want to get angry about it because as I said, he doesn't get up at 2 a.m. or doesn't start till 2 a.m. like I have to do, and do these reviews, especially if they're for 2020. But anyway, James, I do have to go. Thank you for joining me for the Ashes series. And we will definitely see you for the Caribbean series is it March? Tell us a date.
Yeah, it's early March. 3 Test match series in the Caribbean.
Early March, okay. And Australia play Pakistan around that time. It might be some. I know you're a very busy man. But I swear if we lose this series, you might want to watch this channel because I could absolutely explode like I did at Headingley 3 years ago with Ben Stokes. Just absolutely went insane and lost the plot. That's something that's that great Ben Stokes, eh? But but anyway, thank you, James, so much. Oh, I see. See now he's in the comments now. So this has gone. This is yeah, okay, all right. So he's. Thank you, James Buttler, for joining, and don't worry, Gaurav, we're roughing the show up now. Thank you, James.
Can we start a new discussion point, or should we go? I better say goodbye, haven't I? Thank you for having me, Lucas.
It's a pleasure, James. It's a pleasure. We'll see you in the Caribbean in early March, and hopefully England can do some good batting, which is the doctor would need. Down there. Okay, I'm actually trying to delay on purpose now. But I'm in a hole right now, James, and I don't really want to go. But thank you, James, and we will see you in the Caribbean.
Cheers, all.